it looks like you want to take away my democratic right of deciding what I want to decide. So you can decide to become gay, it's fine. I decide to become heterosexual, and it must be fine. So Malema is free to choose what he wants to support, though he is not gay. He's got a wife, he's got children. Maybe the one day which will be really critical for him is when his son wakes up in the morning and brings another boy as a husband. I would love to hear him making a comment that day.
That was just Joshua Maponga's opinion about Julius Malema. Let's forget that. We know South Africa is going to elect a president in general election this month. So Joshua Maponga also has his vision about the election, and these are his words and how he sees the decision of South Africans and Africa.
South Africa is heading for a very interesting time, and they have to make a decision whether to marry a husband who gives good sex or marry a husband who has lots of money. The political environment needs to make a very conscious decision between the economy that is being managed by multinationals and the economy that will be managed by local people. If they go the Jacob Zuma route, they must be prepared to start building their economy from scratch in some cases, because the multinational companies will not be able to stomach some of the national policies, nationalization policies that Jacob Zuma is bringing with him. If they want to continue on the trajectory of the multinational business which Cyril Ramaphosa has been on, then ANC remains in power with a huge dilution from DA and EFF. But on a more serious note, I think South Africa is suffering from its own problems of victimization of its own leadership. And if they treated Jacob Zuma slightly fairly, they would not be in this mess. They should have taken him to a police station and arrested him from there, not taking him to the Supreme Court, because by doing so, you've jumped all the stages of governance. And that was actually an abuse of power. From my own observation, I will beg to be corrected by the legal team, but cases start at a police station, from police station to the magistrate, from magistrate to the High Court, from High Court, then Supreme Court, then Constitutional Court. You don't start off by reporting a president in the Constitutional and Supreme Court without exhausting the thing. So it was literally an abuse of power by ANC, and I think they are there to face the consequences. If they don't believe in that, they must ask Thabo Mbeki what happened when you victimized Jacob Zuma. He is not as stupid as people think he is, and I think he's bringing a very interesting aspect of democracy into South Africa. We are in for a showdown, beautiful showdown in terms of politics, as democracy is being tested to its limits.
Despite talking about the election, but end of the day, we have to see which candidate his vote goes to, between Ramaphosa from the ANC, who is also the current president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma from the MK party, who is also the previous president of the country, or Julius Malema from EFF and others. Joshua Maponga didn't mention the name of the candidate he will vote for. Rather, he has only mentioned the qualities of a leader who should be elected, and this is what he said.
Who give people land, the one who give free education, the one who will nationalize the mines, the one who will open up the borders, the one who will begin to talk about one currency, one passport for the Africans. That's the one I'm looking for. I'm telling you that my vote is based on policy management. Right now, I could have some elements in EFF that I like, have some elements in MK that I like, elements in ANC that I like, elements in Patriotic Alliance that I like. In DA, I have nothing that I like in DA. But I'm failing to find a consolidated policy shift, which would then consolidate the teamwork into what I envisage could be worth of my vote. And as such, I think my selection of a particular leader remains private, but given an option, I would rather go for Jacob Zuma with Malema as vice president. in power sometimes don't have brains, and those with brains don't have power. Those that have money have no ideas, and those that have ideas have no money. I am not lamenting. The institutions of power, the institutions that are holding and managing the political power, the academic power, will not even open the door for transformation. They are there to maintain the colonial status quo. So if you say I'm lamenting, I will take it lying down and I'll agree to that. But over and above that, what we are doing is not lamenting, is developing a new breed of young African leaders so that when they assume political office, their narrative and the transformation of the academic, political, judicial narrative should start being biased towards the African continent. And until we have such leaders who are aware of where the colonial system is coming from and where we are, you young people, hey, you're lamenting, you're lamenting. We're not lamenting. If I am involved in a car accident and I break my legs, are you telling me I must not cry? If I eat poison and my stomach is hurting me, are you telling me that I must not cry? Yes, I must cry because I'm in pain. Because until I express myself and how I'm feeling, how will you know how much pain I am in? So lamenting is part of healing. Unless you are a sadistic man who says, even if I've chopped off your leg, please smile at me. I have nothing to smile about. I'll cry, I'll be angry, and I'll constantly talk until our political leaders begin to lean their ears towards the madness and the sanity and the sanctity of our African traditions. And until we preserve that, no one is coming here to preserve it for us. And until we educate ourselves, no one will write that curriculum to educate us and remind us of who we are.
So, brothers and sisters, king and queens, sons and daughters of the Mother Africa in the continent and those who are in diaspora, now you have got something on the words from Joshua Maponga. What he needs is to select someone who understands the system, someone who will change everything to be owned by indigenous, someone who will nationalize mind, someone who will promote Africa to have one currency, someone who will return the land to the hands of Africans, someone who will open borders and many things that can do. So now we have got an image, and by disclaimer, this video is not for campaigning anyone. What we seek here is a solution of our own problem. You know, sometimes Africa, we fail to reach our goals, not because we have different ideas somehow, but we fail because we select person who not understand the system, and at the same time we fail because we are not united. You heard well Joshua Maponga saying that if we look to the candidates of who are contesting to the presidential position there in South Africa, we see there's no more than 3 people who preaching about black people must own the means of production. We see this kind of speeches from Julius Malema and Jacob Zuma. Sometimes they speak on this issue about the continent at the whole while they are in South Africa. And also Malema on his speech sometimes say that the lack that South African have is when they preach to unite the continent of Africa, the rest of countries joining their hands. The rest of the countries appreciate that slogan. So we see there in South Africa, Julius Malema, he is the one who preaching about the unity of Africa, about opening borders in the continent of Africa, preaching also about Africa must have one currency, and a lot of things that Africa we need to see. We need to have a person who will decide to do, because those who have ideas have not in power. those who are in power, they have not ideas. The same happens to the Western countries of Africa. We see there in Sahel region, where we see our three brothers, now they join to form their bloc and have the interest first. Their first priority is their citizens. And you see French companies and French colonies are moving day by day. They are moving their troops and everything that they plant there in these three countries. I mean Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. So, brothers and sisters, this speech from Joshua MAPONGA opened my mind. That's why I decided to share with you. Also, I want you to take it not only in South Africa. In the whole continent of Africa, we need a person with these qualities as Joshua MAPONGA mentioned. We need someone who will preach, not only to preach, who will want Africa to have same currency, who will want Africa to have single bank, Africa with borderless, Africa with one military, Africa with one judiciary, Africa with one president, and all things that as a state we need to share. These things that MAPONGA mentioned will also make us easy to reach our agendas. You know, Africa, we have this agenda 2063. It's too far from now because the leaders who selected, who decided to have this, they were not there. So we see every generation will come with own ideas without aim, without single agendas as a continent. Wherever you came, you will conduct the agenda that we planned for. So these leaders, they decide this, and we see it is going not as we expect, because you know, 2 years ago, Africa launched the Continental Free Trade Area, but it doesn't work as we expect because there's some stages that we jumped. Example of unity and many things. You know, if we want to conduct this agenda, Continental Free Trade Area, you have 3 or 4 things you need to conduct, or you need to fulfill first. You need to do first. We can't conduct this Continental Free Trade Area while we don't have single currency. It will be difficult for some areas because the value of currency in Kenya is different from South Africa. So you find someone use a lot of money to shift his goods to South Africa. After selling it, the money he got is smaller once he will return to his or her country. So we need to have one currency first before creating these agendas. And also, not only one currency, we need to unite the continent of Africa and removing these borders in order to have this free movement of goods and people. So brothers and sisters, let me end here. I know you have got something on this video. Please write down in the comment section, because the aim is to change the Africa to the Africa that we want. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share our videos.